This is the final battle. With you at my side, we will demolish the deep state. We will expel the warmongers from our government. We will drive out the globalists. We will cast out the communists, Marxists, and fascists. We will throw off the sick political class that hates our country. We will rout the fake news media, and we will liberate America from these villains once and for all.
If you're listening by way of podcast there, that was the Japanese General Yamamoto after Pearl Harbor saying, all I fear here is that what we've done is awaken a sleeping giant and fill him with a terrible resolve. And of course, we had a Democrat donkey over his face, and then Biden sitting there as the emperor, as a clueless idiot. That, my friends, is exactly what happened last night. Last night was Red America's Pearl Harbor. May 30th, 2024 is indeed a day that will live in infamy. But make no mistake, it was also the day that awakened a sleeping giant and filled him with a terrible resolve. We're going to dive right in here, gang. This is Live Stream Friday. I'm your host, Dr. Steve, your patron professor, here to help you stay sane in these clearly insane times. But that's what I'm here for. So make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. Also, just a reminder, if you want to ask me your questions, I know you got a lot to talk about today because our super chats have been disabled because of YouTube's demonetizing us. Just click on that link below or go to fight.turleytalks.com. Sign up for any level of support you like. You have instant access to our private virtual platform where you can ask me your questions and I'll answer them right here on this live stream. So just sign up for any level of support at fight.turleytalks.com and I'll answer your questions on this live stream. It will be my honor. Now, this is going to be an absolutely jam-packed show. If you like to take notes when you're following along, this is the show to take notes on. You're going to want to write a lot of this down. I'm going to give you tons of information on how to interpret what just happened in the last 24 hours. The last 24 hours have indeed been monumental. They have been historic. And I'm going to unpack for you why I think what we just saw in these last 24 hours is the game changer we've all been waiting for. So strap yourselves in. Buckle up, Buttercup, as I've heard it put, and let's dive right in here. Something astonishing happened last night. Something absolutely astonishing. As the shock of the brazenness, the literal left-wing bloodlust brazenness of those verdicts began to dissipate, a very clear, discernible pattern began to emerge all over social media. And in many respects, as I'll show you, all over the world. Within mere minutes after the verdict, that venomous verdict, we got reports of every one of Trump's fundraising sites crashing because so many people visited them to give him money. We've actually never seen it before. We've never seen anything like this. We've never seen a candidate's multiple fundraising sites all crash. And we now know why. Within minutes of that vile, venomous verdict, the number one trending search request on Google was how to donate to Trump. how to donate to Trump was the number one search request on what is by far the largest search engine site on the planet. We are now getting reports that Trump hauled in $39 million in 10 hours, 30% of which were first-time donors. If confirmed, that will have shattered every single political fundraising record on the planet. Among those donating to Trump was a fellow by the name of Sean McGuire. Sean is a Silicon Valley millionaire who is also a self-professed liberal. He voted for Hillary in 2016. He didn't vote in 2020. He frankly didn't like either candidate, and he wasn't alone. A number of people sat out of 2020 who are now coming back. Welcome to the party, pal. And look at this. He publicly announced within literally minutes of that verdict that he had just donated $300,000 to the Trump campaign and has now publicly declared his total and complete support for Trump in November as a much-deserved backlash against this travesty of justice and this affront against democracy. And he was hardly the only liberal to come forward. Piers Morgan, of all people, tweeted out that this verdict was not just a travesty of justice, but that it would propel Trump back into the White House. The actor Michael Rapaport, who, as many of you know, was an absolute rabid anti-Trumper. I mean, we're talking a grotesque anti-Trumper. He is now saying Trump is going to win in a landslide in 2024, and you could put money on that. Rapaport is proof that there is such a thing as a cure, an antidote for TDS, Trump derangement syndrome. And RFK Jr. has come out and publicly denounced this travesty. He tweeted out, quote, "This will backfire in November. Even worse, it's a profoundly undemocratic act. America deserves a president who can win at the ballot box without compromising our government's separation of powers or weaponizing the courts. You can't save democracy by destroying it." Even international leaders came out in support of President Trump. One after the other. Former Deputy Prime Minister of Italy, Matteo Salvini, tweeted out, quote, "Solidarity and full support for Donald Trump, victim of judicial harassment and a process of political nature. In Italy, we are sadly familiar with the weaponization of the justice system by the left." Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban, "Let the people make their verdict this November. Keep fighting, Mr. President." UK Brexit leader Nigel Farage, "The verdict is a disgrace." And even Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov wrote, "There is simply the elimination, in effect, of political rivals by all possible means, legal and illegal." That doesn't take the cake. That's awesome. What we're seeing here is something frankly astonishing. We are seeing nothing short of the awakening of a sleeping giant. An awakened giant filled with a terrible resolve. And I think those are the two frames of reference to help us understand, to sort of organize and unpack what's really going on over these last epic 24 hours here. A sleeping giant awakened, number one. And number two, awakened with a terrible resolve. So let's start with that sleeping giant awakening. We, the people, today are more united than we have ever been before. And I'm just going to say it right now. It is an honor. It is an honor to be in this fight with you as your Patriot professor. I have never felt more of a love and solidarity with you than I do right now. We, the people, are today more united than we have ever been before. All the studies show that. For example, we today are more anti-war than we have ever been, even during the height of the Vietnam era. We together are more anti-war than we have ever been. And yet you'll notice our permanent political class, our ruling elite, are absolutely obsessed at the same time with going to war. War with Russia, war with China, war with Iran. We, the people, have never been more anti-war than we are right now, while at the same time our elite have never been more pro-war. We, the people, have never been less racist than we are right now. Virtually every single study out there shows that racism has plummeted in our nation. You take any racial indicator, such as, do you support interracial marriage? In the 1950s, every study found 90% of the public said, no, I don't support interracial marriage. Today, 90% have no problem with it. If you had asked in the 1950s, would you work for somebody of a different ethnicity? About 90% said I'd be very uncomfortable with it. Today, 95% don't care. Every racial indicator you can find shows that racism in our nation has plummeted. We have never been less racist than we have ever been. And yet, our permanent political class and our legacy media are obsessed with lecturing us and accusing us of racism. We, the people, are together more united than we have ever been before. And so our ruling elite are doing everything they possibly can to divide us. We are living in a time when, in many respects, the people have never been more united. And at the same time, we have never been more united in our disgust and disdain for the permanent political class than we are right now. The latest Gallup survey found that trust in our nation's fundamental institutions across the board, make sure you write this down because this is going to come back later. It's going to be huge for understanding what happened in the last 24 hours. The latest Gallup survey has found that trust in our nation's fundamental institutions across the board has absolutely plummeted. We're talking trust in our federal government, trust in our legacy news media, trust in law enforcement, trust in election integrity, and trust in our judicial system. We have never been more alienated from our permanent political class and the institutions that they rule than we are right now. Study after study after study shows, particularly the 2010 study at the Tea Party movement by Doug Schoen and Scott Rasmussen since 2010. Study after study shows that a populist volcanic eruption is indeed in the making. A populist backlash by the peoples in the works the likes of which we have never seen. And who, more than anyone else, who has positioned himself politically as the champion of the people? It's none other than Donald J. Trump. This is why we're seeing two dynamics rise up right in front of our very eyes. The people are more united than ever before, and Trump is more popular than he has ever been. Those two dynamics go hand in hand. The people are the most united we've ever been, And Trump, the representative of those people, is now more popular today than he's ever been. Even the Never Trumpers at National Review have had enough. Even they are coming out now on the side of Donald Trump. According to Nate Silver's Project 538, if the election were held today, Trump would crush Biden with 312 electoral votes, 8 more than he got in 2016. And 2016 was the most any Republican had gotten since 1988. Biden is outspending Trump 4-1, and yet Trump's polls keep going up while Biden's continue to crash. And we've talked precisely about why that is. But again, I want to underscore precisely this interplay between these two dynamics, which you want to get, right? This sleeping giant awakening. We, the people, are more united than ever before, and Trump is more popular than ever before. These two dynamics are inextricably linked. And the irony as to why that is going to absolutely blow your mind. But first, let's give a shout out to one of our wonderful sponsors, and that's our good friends over at Home Title Lock. Gang, if you have not yet secured the deed to your home as of stop waiting. Just click on that link below. You know you got to do it. I've done it. Tons of patriots have done it. Click on that link below and protect yourself and your loved ones right now. I seriously was shocked when I found out how easy it is to access the deed to my home, and not just access it, but change it. The deed to your home is the only document that proves you own it. But the problem is that the deeds to all of our homes are now online, and criminals, I mean, I've talked to them. Criminals are free to find our deed, forge our signature, refile as the new owner of your home, take out tons of loans using your home's equity. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars, and then they stick you with all the debt. And home insurance isn't going to help you. But that's where our good friends over at Home Title Lock come in. Gang, they're amazing. Home Title Lock gives you the peace of mind that the deed to your home is absolutely and completely protected. Click on that link below right now. Use promo code TurleyTalks. Then all you got to do is just enter your address for your no obligation home title scan to see if you're already a victim of deed theft. It's $100 value, absolutely totally free with my promo code TurleyTalks. Gang, don't wait for the worst to happen. Only regret you didn't do something when you could have. Do what I've done. Do what countless patriots have done. Click on that link below and secure your home today. All right. The secret sauce, as it were, to Trump's success is that he's currently doing something that no other politician has been able yet to do. He's galvanizing the rural white vote like no presidential candidate before him. And at the same time, he's galvanizing what you would think is the polar opposite political demographic, and that's the urban non-white vote. In fact, he has the highest urban non-white vote support of any Republican presidential candidate in half a century since Richard Milhouse Nixon. And the question, of course, is why? Why is Trump attracting so many, particularly non-white voters who normally vote Democrat? And the irony is we have MSNBC to thank in terms of having done a study on this. MSNBC, of all places, recently did a report on Black voters in Georgia who are supporting Trump. And the voters they interviewed there said that they knew dozens of fellow Blacks who always voted Democrat who are now voting Trump because they believe, get this, Trump is being victimized by the very same rigged judicial system that so many of them believe they've been victimized by. And ironically, it's the same with rural voters. We have a number of studies that show that rural voters feel completely and totally disenfranchised and shut out from the political and justice systems in our nation, comparable to the way urban non-white voters feel. Now, let that hit you. This is the irony, the wicked irony of all of this weaponized legalism. It's actually making Trump stronger. You have got to get that. I know so many of you are upset right now. I know so many of you are livid and so many of you are angry, but you need to understand this fire that we're going through. You need to understand that it is ironically refining. The weaponized legalism, this lawfare, is actually making Trump stronger. It's putting Trump in what we've been calling on this channel his political sweet spot. It's maximizing the white rural vote for himself, all the while minimizing the urban non-white vote for Biden. So if that's the case, if Trump has galvanized the rural white vote and the urban non-white vote largely as a reaction, as a backlash to this lawfare, as they see Trump as a victim of the same rigged system they see themselves victimized by, if that's the case, what the hell do you think will be the result of this verdict? This rigged conviction. His support will only skyrocket. And it will only skyrocket because of this political sweet spot. Precisely because of the very lawfare that the Democrats thought would result in his demise. What happened yesterday in that, again, that venomous verdict, in that partisan bloodlust coming out of a once great but now total shithole city. What happened yesterday in that verdict only served to further galvanize the American people across the regional spectrum, rural voter and urban voter, white and black, Latino and Asian, men and women, to rise up against a system they believed is rigged against them. And that's exactly what we're seeing happening today. Take a look at this. This is the betting odds on Polymarket last night. Take a look at the compare April 15th to now post-conviction at the bottom. Trump's chances of winning the presidency actually went up post-verdict. He's now opened up an 18-point lead over Biden in the betting odds after the verdict was announced. The betting market sensed that something is happening here. And there is. And I want to further unpack that for you by sensing, or rather exploring, the terrible resolve side of the awakened sleeping giant, right? So those are the two frames of reference to understand what's going on here. We've got an awakened giant, right? An awakened giant around what they perceive to be an unjust system, bringing together rural voter and urban voter. And then at the same time, it's awakening a terrible resolve. So let's talk about that resolve. What does this awakened giant want now? Now, what we have to understand here, gang, this is very important. I want you to write this down. We've talked about this before, but if you haven't gotten it now, you need to get it. We have to understand that we're living in the midst of what scholars call post-normal times. How's that for a descriptor, accurate descriptor for our days that we're living in? Post-normal times. It's based on the work of the Pakistani scholar Zayed Sardar. A post-normal time is a time of enormous transition. That's what you want to get. When you think post-normal, think transition. It's a transition from an old era that has come to an end, a literal end of an era, and a new era that has yet to fully rise. that has yet to mature. The old era, whatever it is, that's key. We're not the first ones to live through post-normal times, right? Populations throughout the centuries have lived in between an old era and a new era, right? But the old era, whatever it is, the old era is dying away, and a new order has yet to establish itself. And so it's a period of time, it's an interim period between the no longer and the not yet. And for us, specifically, what's unique for us in terms of the time we're living in is that the old order that's dying away, you know this, is the liberal globalist order. This is becoming more and more, frankly, unanimous among scholars. The old liberal, secular, globalist order is dead. Now, it continues to lag on through institutions. We're going to talk about that. That's a very important part about post-normal times, okay? That old order continues to lag on in institutions that give us, like Joe Biden and the ruling political establishment. But make no mistake, that old liberal globalist order is dead, even though it continues to live on in the institutions. And the new order, what scholars call civilizational populism, a new world rising, where populations are returning to nation, culture, custom, and tradition. This is the world of MAGA. This is the world of the European right. This is the world of civilization states throughout the world. It is rising, but it has yet to establish a new norm, a new normal. So we're post-normal, and this is key. This is what you have to get. We're post-normal in that whatever we've considered normal in the past is now basically gone. We can't rely on anything in the past to make sense of the present, precisely because the past operated according to norms that no longer exist today, and that the societal order that the normal was indicative of has basically died. But we don't have a new normal yet in the rise of the new world. It hasn't taken over yet. So we're in this interim period of a no longer and a not yet. We're in an extraordinary period of turbulence and chaos where very, very little makes sense. Gang, that's why I'm your patron professor, right? I help you what? What do I do? What do I do each day? I help you stay sane in these insane times. That's not just a tagline. That's post-normality. That's really what's happening here. Trying to make sense of nonsensical times. Now, the key to making sense of post-normal times is understanding the three characteristics that always accompany post-normal times. And they're known as the 3 C's: complexity, chaos, and contradiction. Right? Write that down. Complexity, chaos, and contradiction. Analyzing what's happening in relation to those 3 C's will help us understand what's really going on here in terms of the kind of resolve that this awakened giant we're seeing will have. Now, I just want, on today's video, I want to focus on 2 of those 3, complexity and contradiction, because those are the ones that I keep seeing. I think we all get the chaos, right? The chaos, and it literally, the chaos is that there's no logic to things. And we saw that with this verdict. There's no logic. There's no linear thought happening. The thought is, what happens is radically random. So we all looked at this case. This case was an obvious joke. Even CNN pundits and MSNBC pundits were saying, we don't even know what the crime is here. It was an obvious justification for at least a mistrial. So to turn around and say guilty on all 34 counts doesn't follow. That's chaotic. Doesn't make it. There's no linear sense to make there. So we've talked about that tons. So what I want to focus on is the complexity and the contradiction, because that's now what more and more people are talking about. So We're going to focus on complexity and contradiction. That's what we're seeing surface the most in terms of the growing resolve against the dying liberal establishment that we're seeing amongst this giant that's rising. Let's start with complexity here. Now, this is real deep analysis, and I think this is going to help you make sense of what's happening here. One of the recurring refrains that you're going to hear over and over, particularly on X from last night, is that the rule of law is dead in our nation. The rule of law is dead. The rule of law has shattered, and now everything has been radically partisanized. Everything has been weaponized. Now, ironically, that's exactly what you ought to expect in post-normal times. That's the kind of what scholars call complexity that we expect to see in a period marked by post-normality. And this is because the reigning paradigm or orthodoxy that held all the diversities of society together in the old paradigm, that reigning orthodoxy has died, which for us is political liberalism, liberal globalism. That orthodoxy has died in the hearts and minds of people for all kinds of reasons. We can get into that. Once the principle of integration and coherence collapses, what happens? Society shatters. All the particulars, all the diversities of society end up going into a mass explosion like shrapnel. All the diverse, disparate elements of society that once cohered, that once were held together in a coherent whole by virtue of a reigning paradigm orthodoxy, because that paradigm and orthodoxy has died, they all split apart. And that's absolutely key to understanding our time today. Stepan Mostrovich, an excellent scholar at Texas A&M, he's documented how we're living in a time of enormous complexity where virtually everything appears to be breaking apart. Our world is more and more characterized by tribalisms, nationalisms, secessionisms, balkanization, social fission, and the like. And so what's happening now is everyone is rearranging themselves in some way, shape, or form into competing identity groups. There's no longer a single ideology that holds us together, like, Western democracy, or for that matter, communism or fascism, the three dominant ideologies of the 20th century. No, the century of ideology is dead, and now we're breaking up into identity groups, competing identity groups. And what we just saw happen last night was that the law was used as a blatant weapon by liberal identity groups against a portion of the population that they hate, represented by Trump. So now then, what kind of resolve are we seeing from the people awakening here in the midst of this post-normal complexity? What do people want now who are on the side of Trump? What do we all want? We want retribution. And everyone is saying it now. It's not just some. It's not just the diehards. Everyone now wants retribution. Here's, of all people, Megyn Kelly. Hardly a fan of Trump in 2016, right? Megyn Kelly, talk about a transformation. And again, it's a post-normal transformation. Talk about Megyn Kelly is now openly saying that the only proper response going forward now is political and legal revenge. Check it out.
It's a before and after moment for America. What just happened today is a line we can't uncross. And these Democrats will rue the day they decided to use lawfare to stop a presidential candidate. I'm not talking about violence. I'm talking about tit for tat. You just wait, and it won't be Hunter Biden the next time. It's going to be Joe Biden. It could potentially still be Barack Obama. It could still potentially be Hillary Clinton. We're going to have to look at what the statutes of limitations are on the various crimes they surely committed. We're going to have to look at passing laws to revive those dead crimes felonies or misdemeanors so that those cases can be brought out of time. That's what may be in the interests of justice, just like they did for E. Jean Carroll with a New York State law that was passed so that she could sue him. That's what happened. Turnabout is fair play. And John Yoo, an amazing lawyer who worked in the Bush administration, Department of Justice, has a great piece out today talking about how that's the only way they'll learn. The only way to save the republic now is to give them a taste of their own medicine. That's it. That's it. They tasted blood today. They're the wolves with the bloody piece of meat in their mouths. That doesn't stop the wolf from coming back for more.
It's amazing. I mean, John Yoo, again, is one of the most measured fellows. I think he's out in Berkeley, California, one of the most measured fellows you can imagine. Now, even he's coming out and saying, that's it. Retribution is the only recourse we have here, lest we all be destroyed by this. Because they're coming out, make no mistake, in this shattered, complex world of identity politics, they're coming out to take out and destroy red state America. And Megyn Kelly is hardly alone. John Yoo are hardly alone. Matt Walsh, he didn't mince words when he tweeted out, red state DAs need to arrest corrupt Democrats and prosecute them in front of Republican juries that already hate them before the trial even begins. I'm not saying we should stoop to the left's level. I'm saying we should stop pretending we live in a country that no longer exists. And here's Sean Davis. Check out his tweet, quote, if you're a Republican running for office, you could just go ahead and throw away all of your elegant little policy proposals for this or that corporate exclusion or tax subsidy. Give me a list of which Democrat officials you're going to put in prison or get lost. There's only one way to deal with nuclear war, which is what Democrats have unleashed, and that is mutually assured destruction. Democrats declared war on our entire system of justice and the rule of law, and our only options are victory or defeat. I intend to win. Do you? So now what we have to understand here is that this retribution is inevitable because we're living in the midst of a shattered society. The rule of law has shattered. And it's shattering now into shards of partisanized retribution. Now, I know that sounds tribalist, but keep in mind, it's a period of transition. We're moving away from one era into a new era. But in the midst of this transition, we're going to have to fight. That's the resolve that we're already seeing awakening there. It's purely organic. You don't have to convince anyone to do it. They know they've got to in order to survive. The reason why you've got farmers all over Europe protesting is because they recognize their way of life is at risk by virtue of the radical environmental apocalyptic policies being passed by the bullies in Brussels and the EU. They recognize their way of life is at risk. And that's what you're seeing there with Megyn Kelly, with Matt Walsh. What we're seeing is a recognition that red state America's way of life is being jeopardized here. The people, we the people, who are more united than we've ever been before, are now resolved to revolt against this dying, decrepit, weaponized political class that continues to exist, nevertheless, through ongoing institutions. And that's where the next dynamic comes in, the dynamic of contradiction. Contradiction takes on the institutions themselves. But first, gang, remember, if you do want to ask me your question, I know you got a lot to talk about. We got a lot loading up as we speak because YouTube has suspended our super chats. Just click on that link below or go to fight.turleytalks.com. Download our beautiful brand new app. Beautiful app. Brand new app. Absolutely free. But then you're going to have the option to join one of our levels of support. And by virtue of doing that, you have access to our own virtual platform. You can ask me all your questions you like. I'll be happy to answer them on this live stream. Also, I do have a special opportunity for you to build wealth faster in the growing parallel economy that's destroying all things woke. And it's by using a unique and conservative cryptocurrency investing strategy. Now, BlackRock CEO Larry Fink recently said that the race for crypto by some of the biggest wealth managers in the world is a flight to quality during these uncertain economic times. There's a little known and conservative strategy that's quietly being exploited right now because it's one of the best ways to fight against a declining dollar. And there's a bonus. It focuses on building long-term wealth faster while also generating cash flow now. So why shouldn't everyday people also be able to tap into that wonderful strategy? Well, that's where my good friend Dan Ryder comes in. Gang, I want to tell you about what he's got. He's helped thousands discover and learn about this little-known new crypto strategy. Dan and Prime DeFi are leading a movement of kingdom-minded patriots on a mission to leave their corporate jobs and build a legacy for future generations, even if you're a total and complete beginner when it comes to crypto, like I am. So don't wait. Click on that link below right now to book a call with Dan and his team and let them walk you through the process. You don't need to gamble on high-risk cryptos to experience exceptional returns. There's a path for every comfort zone. Slots are limited, so don't wait. Click on that link below and book a call today. All right, gang. Let's talk about contradiction here, because this is especially relevant for the institutions that continue to harbor the old liberal paradigm. So the old dying liberal paradigm continues to exist in and through public institutions, but this is where the dynamic of contradiction comes in post-normal times. Now, by contradiction, we're actually talking about a gulf that's opened up between the haves and the have-nots that in effect is causing the entire system to basically collapse. And it's because we're living more and more in a profound crisis of legitimacy, where there is a massive, massive discontent rising up among the people on both the left and the right, by the way. Keep in mind, all of the spoilers in this upcoming election November are all from the left. They're all from Cornel West, right? RFK Jr., they're all from Jill Stein, they're all from the left. So this profound crisis of legitimacy is being felt by people both on the left and the right who feel completely alienated from our public and cultural institutions. Again, Gallup did a recent study that found that Americans' trust and confidence in every single major institution has reached very, very dangerous lows. And again, like I mentioned, I showed you that poll at the beginning. We're talking across the board. We're talking our trust in government, our trust in our legal system, our trust in our medical system, our trust in big business, our trust in big tech, our trust in the legacy media, and most especially the criminal justice system. You name it. Trafalgar recently found that 80% of the people in our nation believe that we live in a two-tier justice system that protects the wealthy and the powerful at the expense of the ordinary citizen. And this is the contradiction that is inherent in post-normality, this massive gulf between the haves and the have-nots. And what we just saw last night in that bloodlust verdict exacerbated this crisis of legitimacy like nothing ever before. Take a look at some of these tweets. I just grabbed a sample of them, but this is a representative of what you would read all over Twitter. This is from Joel Pollack over at Breitbart. The election is now over, and that's very important. It is. This is very key. The election is now over. There is no scenario in which Biden can win and have the result be seen as legitimate. Catch that? That's the delegitimacy that's inherent in the contradictory dynamics of a post-normal society. There is no scenario now in which Biden can win. And by the way, Bill Maher should listen to that. Bill Maher's the one running around, oh, Trump, no matter what he does, Trump is going to say, I won. He's never going to concede an election. Why should he now, Bill? Why should he? With this kind of delegitimation that's happening. There is no scenario in which Biden can win and have the results seen as legitimate. Either Trump will prevail by sheer force of popular will, or we will be ruled by a tyrannical regime leading to internal conflict and steady attrition from public life. Elon Musk said something very, very similar. He tweeted out, quote, "Indeed, great damage was done today to the public's faith in the American legal system." Faith and confidence, that's delegitimacy. If a former president can be criminally convicted over such a trivial matter, motivated by politics rather than justice, then anyone is at risk of a similar fate. And even Tucker Carlson chimed in. I don't know if you saw Tucker's tweet. It's excellent. Import the third world, become the third world. That's what we just saw. This won't stop Trump. He'll win the election if he's not killed first. But it does mark the end of the fairest justice system in the world. Anyone who defends this verdict is a danger to you and your family. This is the ultimate consequence of what happened last night. Whatever semblance of legitimacy tens of millions of people still just held on to for their public institutions like National Review or John Yoo and or Jonathan Turley, my namesake, whatever semblance of legitimacy people held on to for their public institutions, last night it collapsed. It cratered. And it cratered because we're living in the midst of post-normal times, in between a no longer and a not yet. The ironies that had to crater in order for us to get into the not yet, to get unstuck from the institutions that still hold on to the old dead liberal order. That's the good news. In the midst of all of this complexity and chaos and contradiction, the good news is that we are seeing a sleeping giant awaken. Awaken with a resolve to completely crush whatever is left of the old liberal globalist order and rebuild a republic in a new rising era of civilizational freedom and liberty. Make no mistake, that resolve was steeled as of last night. The era of liberalism is dead. A new era of civilizational traditionalism is rising. And a sleeping giant filled with resolve has just been awakened. Over to you. That's all I got to say. I want to hear what you guys have to say. We got tons to talk about. Remember, if you want to ask me your questions because YouTube has suspended our super chats, just click on that link below or go to fight.turleytalks.com. That's fight.turleytalks.com. Download our beautiful brand new app, beautiful, immaculate brand new app. Join any one of our levels of support and you'll have direct access to our virtual platform where you can ask me any question that you like. I'll be happy to answer them on this live stream. All the questions that you see below are from our supporters. So please join one of our levels of support during this time of demonetization. And then that way you can ask me any question you like. I'll be happy to answer it on this live stream. Also, I did a video a couple of weeks back on Christians and mega churches taking over California's public schools. You definitely want to check it out. It's really, really encouraging. But I pointed out there that that's actually becoming par for the course in the way patriots, particularly Christian patriots, are rising up and taking over these failed institutions, right, to bring about this new civilizationalist age. For example, our good friend Jeff Rakowski's strategy is to use real estate acquisition to basically take over pockets of our country. He's absolutely amazing. He already owns over $250 million worth of real estate across America. I love getting to know these patriots who own $250 million. That's billion with a B. worth of real estate all across America. He's one of us. I always go to him for real estate advice. And what's so awesome is that Jeff is doing something comparable to what these mega churches are doing in these school districts. He's leading a movement of Christian patriots to buy up tons of real estate in order to build up a culture of faith, family, and freedom. It's amazing stuff. And I know a lot of you have been wanting to invest in real estate. Me too. I'm one of you. And we didn't know how. Well, guess what? Jeff's our man. Jeff's my man. He's your man. He's here for you. Jeff and his team have opened up some time to talk to you guys about your goals and about how they can potentially help you realize those goals. It's not for everyone. All you have to do is schedule a 15-minute call. I really encourage you to do it. They will tell you if they can't help you. Jeff is amazing. He's a man of absolutely upstanding integrity. If it's not you can't help it, or if they can't help you, then you don't have to worry about it. But they're going to pray for you. They're going to give you some advice on how to get your finances to the next level. Gang, they're amazing. Just click on the link below or go to freeintrocall.com. That's freeintrocall.com. Jeff is one of us. I didn't know this. Jeff and I grew up 10 minutes from each other. I mean, he's like my brother from another mother. You will love him. Book a call with Jeff and his team. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity to talk to someone who is a real estate guru, gang. He is amazing, and he's a patriot, Christian patriot. He's one of us. Click on the link below. Book a call with Jeff and his team. See what you guys can do together. It's amazing. You're going to love it. All right, gang. Over to you, Micah. Who do we have? How many questions we have? How many, all the people? Missy, checking in from Texas. Can and will Trump hold rallies from his own yard if put on house arrest? I believe he will. Oh, definitely. I mean, Trump is a master of being able to exploit lemons into lemonade. I don't think you have to worry about that. I also don't think you have to worry about him going to jail as long as this is on appeal. Bail pending appeal prevents any punishment until the appeal is resolved, and the appeal process is going to go on for months. So I don't think you have to worry about it. In many respects, he's a free man. He doesn't have to show up at the court anymore. Well, not until sentencing, and there's a lot of leeway for it. Again, it doesn't matter. He's got bail. He'll be able to skirt around it. Really, now it is about harnessing this massive silent giant that just got awakened, and with a steeled resolve. If he harnesses that, we're looking at a landslide victory in November, the likes of which we never even imagined. Proud Canadian, God bless you too, in the Great White North. Where are the Republican AGs? Seems to me like they have no interest in fighting fire with fire. So this is the anger that's so much in the grassroots feel for Republicans. Remember, the nation is owned by the Democrats. The Republicans only rent in terms of the establishment. The deep state was established by the Democrats over the course of the 20th century. The Republicans just rent there. So they've learned to be controlled opposition, much like, the Conservatives, the Tories over in Canada, although Pierre Poilievre will hopefully change that. And I just think that they've just learned, you just sit back and you just let the Democrats do whatever they want to do. And as long as you do that, you don't get these kind of investigations. You don't get the legal system weaponized against you. That's going to change. The amount of pressure now for red state AGs to fight back it's even coming from the likes of National Review. These fully on board establishment Republicans, even they are saying this was crazy. This was insane. This was a venomous, vile, politicized verdict, and it needs to be. There has to be some retribution if we're going to find a way of being able to have the kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? I thought I just wrote it down. Deterrence. That's the word I'm looking for. If we're going to have the kind of deterrence we need. Yeah, I did write it down. On the right side of it. If we're going to have this is John Hughes' argument. If we're going to have the kind of deterrence needed in order to prevent the Democrats from just turning us into a total Marxist tyranny, then you're going to have to fight fire with fire. So they'll do it, but We'll see. We'll see who the first one is. I think it's going to be Ken Paxton of Texas. I think he's going to be the first one to begin crushing them. And I mean Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer. I want them in handcuffs. Not who cares about Hunter Biden? Michael, Dr. Steve, this verdict was tragic. In fact, I had a hard time sleeping last night because I felt sick. Am I wrong to be this angry? And what can I do as a local Republican committee member do going into the sentencing period in July, right when the convention starts? Yeah, one argument is that Republicans should have the virtual nomination process like the Democrats are doing so that they can have Biden get on the Ohio ballot, since they wouldn't have nominated him formally at the end of August until the early August deadline for being on that ballot passes. They're saying let's do the same thing for Trump. Let's do a virtual nomination so that when they sentence him, they are sentencing the official Republican nominee. They're putting some serious pressure on them. So that might be one thing, convincing your fellow committee members to agree with that. I don't think that would be very hard to do. I hear you, Michael. It's tragic, no question. But also, the more I read about post-normal times, it's almost like it's necessary. It's a necessary kind of cleansing. It's the necessary kind of desperate act by a dying paradigm, liberal globalist paradigm, needed to awaken the retribution that will finally consign it to the ash heap of history. Because as long as they get along to go along, we're just going to stay stuck in post-normal times. So often, post-normal times, we have to force the hand of the new era that's rising. And the new era has got to be made up of rural and urban folk who, in the end, simply love America, want to save it, and want to destroy the woke left that wants to destroy America. And the same goes with Canada as well. And how can we keep our spirits up after this hit? Even more important, how can we help President Trump keep up his? It's hard not to feel a sense of doom. I'm here. I hear you, Ann. Hopefully, this live stream gave you some confidence and it gave you some encouragement. We are stronger. Look, what's happening right now, the reason why Trump is poised to win 2024 in a landslide is the people are more united than they've ever been before, and Trump is more popular than he's ever been before. Those are the two things you have to hold together. The people are more united than they have ever been before, and Trump is more popular than he's ever been before. Okay. So, and those two are knocking sparks off each other because Trump is the unique leader of the people. And then what we're seeing now, I think, as the way forward is I think we're seeing an air of retribution on the part of the people now, and an air of total delegitimacy of all of our institutions, which now requires us to rebuild. Okay, and that's what the parallel economy is all about. The parallel economy is the rebuilding of a nation of faith, family, and freedom that aligns with the new civilizational populism that's flourishing all over the world. So we've got the winds at our backs, but it's going to be very hard because the single biggest enemy to that civilizational populism is right here in DC. It's not the bullies in Brussels. They have nothing they're nothing without DC. It's right here. It's not even in Davos. It's right here in DC. DC is the enemy of the world right now. Richard, Dr. Steve, come on, man. The Dems can't be so naive to think these sham trials and convictions will level the playing field in November. Your thoughts? I think they do. Yeah, I think they do. I actually think they're that stupid. I actually think they're that drunk with power. I hear what you're saying, but if you're talking about the Democrats in power, because there's plenty of Democrats like Bobby Kennedy, former Democrat, and Tulsi Gabbard who think this is insane. But if you're talking about the Democrats in power, I think this is what they do. They use the institutions they have as a weaponized club to try to beat down the opposition. So they think weaponized legalism is the. I mean, it worked in 2020. Look at what they pulled off in the single most absurd, insane election in our nation's history. They've got George Stephanopoulos with a straight face telling us it was the most pristine, honest, organized election in ever in humanity. So I think they do believe that this is going to backlash against Trump, because this is the only way they know how to operate, is through the mechanisms of power over which they hold the levers. So we'll see. We'll see if they have something more clever. But so far, I haven't seen it. Franz, people are so bummed when I'm in a better mood than P. Diddy at a... Franz, you're too good. P. Diddy at a freak-off party. Is it wrong for me to be relishing the prospect of America First candidates occupying the Oval Office for the next 20 years? Is this the end of swing states? See, Franz, that's why I love you. That's why you are a true Turley talker. You get it. You get the big picture. So no, you're obviously not wrong. What you're able to do is you're able to relativize what happened the last 24 hours in light of these larger trends. And these larger trends, ironically, are coming to us largely through liberal scholars. That's the irony. Liberal scholars are the ones admitting we're seeing the end of globalism. We're seeing the end of liberalism. We're seeing the end of secularism. We're moving into a civilizationalist world. We're moving into a post-liberal world. So if we're moving into that world, what's happening? What's happening is what they call a post-normal lag. Is the old era lags into the rising new, by virtue of the old institutions. Ronald Reagan said the closest thing to eternal life on earth is a government program. These old institutions keep these old, literally, actors, liberal actors, alive in our lives. But their desperation to try to hold on to power gets more and more ridiculous. And so you get the backlash, and that's what guarantees the new era, the new paradigm to rise. It's that simple. And you just captured it right there. Is it wrong for me to be relishing in the prospect of America First candidates occupying the Oval Office for the next 20 years? No, because you get it, Franz. You understand the bigger picture. Again, I think a lot of people were just shocked at how venomous again, this is where the chaos comes in, right? So you've got your complexity, chaos, and contradiction. This is where the chaos comes in. And that's linear, logical thinking disappears in a post-normal world. So what you got from Jonathan Turley, what you got from Jonathan Yu, what you got from Andy McCarthy of National Review, what you got from even CNN and MSNBC legal commentators, was very rational, linear legal reasoning. And well, obviously, there's most likely going to be a hung jury. I doubt it's going to be an acquittal. But I doubt it's going to be a full. And if he does get convicted, it's only going to be on this charge or that charge. It's not going to be on all charges. Nobody in their wildest dreams imagined you would get a verdict of guilty on all charges. Guilty on all charges. Nobody dreamed that, because they're sequentially, logically, linearly thinking. But in a post-normal world, that's gone because of all the complexity and all of the contradictions. Chaos reigns, and what we end up doing is we end up siding with our side. So rational thought is not what's so important. It's whose side am I on, and what are we defending today? So it becomes just blood feud at that point. That's just where we are right now. In this case, a metaphorical blood feud via weaponized legalism. So anyway, no, I think you're right, Franz. I would go with where you're going. Kenneth Bryant, Dr. Steve, since we're firmly in the interregnum, very good. I love that term as well. Interim, interregnum, the post-normal period, With the sham verdict, it seems that we are tenuously holding on to the framework of the republic of our Constitution, that's for sure. I had no doubt that 45 would be propelled to 47, but the Democrats and the deep state seem willing to destroy as much as possible beforehand. Do you see a scenario where Biden and the Democrats simply seize power, like always? They always accuse President Trump of doing. Yeah, again, they may try that. We saw that with the fall of the Berlin Wall. We saw that with Ceausescu in Romania. We saw it with the attempted coup against Gorbachev in the Soviet Union, the Soviet hardliners. Yeah, I'm not going to put. Yeah, I mean, we could see something like that. It doesn't see historically. It does not seem to work out too well for them. It seems to me that might be a pattern we can impose on post, because they were going through their own post-normal time, by the way. At that time, that was the interim period of where the reigning paradigm of Soviet communism basically died. Most agree it died by the 1970s, somewhere within the Brezhnev era. Most agreed that virtually everyone stopped believing in it at that point. But it took another 20, 30 years for it to work itself out institutionally before the institutions themselves fell. So that's what we're waiting for. But in that process, yeah, we did. Not everywhere, not in Poland necessarily. We didn't see it. We didn't see this kind of military response, but we could. I don't put anything past them. Again, but I don't think it's going to work out too well for them. Mickey, how long will it be before Trump can appeal, and might he be sent to jail until that happens? No. So he's out until sentencing, and then upon sentencing, he'll have an immediate appeal, and he'll post bail, and bail pending appeal prevents any punishment until the appeal is resolved. So I don't see Trump going to prison on this. I honestly, I'm hearing a lot of people. We'll see. Again, it's post-normal times. We have no idea. But Merchant has a lot of discretion in terms of the sentencing. We'll have to see where the political winds are blowing at the time. If Trump is leading Biden by 20 points, maybe they're going to stick him in prison. But again, that only just tends to help politicians. Just ask Brazil. Lula was in prison for 2 or 3 years, and then came out and won re-election, ironically, because he had been serving as president in a previous administration. So Trump could be sentenced to probation. He could receive a conditional discharge. I doubt that, obviously. Democrats seem to be out for blood. But no, the first and foremost, he'll have bail pending appeal. Bail pending appeal prevents any punishment until appeals resolved. So that's the way. I've virtually every legal theorist has argued that thus far. Rich, Dr. Steve, will any elected Republican show his spine and fight back? What more can deep state to Trump do? What more can the deep state do to Trump before anyone fights like Trump? Their words mean nothing. I'm with you. I tweeted that a couple of times last night. I mean, Mitch McConnell. You said, well, this should never have come to a trial in the first place. I'm sure it'll be overturned on appeal. And everyone's like, ooh, don't hurt yourself fighting back so hard, Mitch, And even Mike Johnson, I mean, it's just like, this is a travesty of justice. And I just retweet him and say, yeah, and what the hell did you do about it over the last 8 months? Nothing. Zippo. Nada. So I'm with you. No, the current Republican guard at the federal level is part of the old paradigm. They're part of the old establishment paradigm. It's the new blood that we're seeing in the red states, particularly like Ken Paxton in Texas. The new blood, you can expect to see them start to do some things. And again, it's not federal. It's like we're seeing. It's going to be state. It's going to be local. You don't need, remember, it doesn't have to be a legitimate case. That's the scare. This is the genie that the Democrats let out of the bottle. It doesn't matter if the statute of limitations have passed. Hillary is fair game. And I think it's time, we got Hillary. I think it's about time we got Kamala. I think it doesn't matter. That's what we have to show them. This is what you've unleashed. And eventually we're going to have Republicans doing that. Because in this, we're in many respects, we're still in primary season for state, local, congressional elections. And the number one question every constituency is going to have, Republican constituency, like Mike Davis said, is how many Democrats and who are they are you going to have arrested? That's all I care about. I don't care about your policy here, there, or anywhere. How many Democrats are you going to have arrested as a result of this? So they're going to have to go in that direction because that's where their constituents are going. Just Jules, 15 hours ago, a verdict 11 hours ago, Biden says we can fire military weapons into Russia. What the F is wrong with this? World War III is imminent. Yeah, no, they're insane. They're nuts. Again, this is the problem of the post-normal lag. They don't recognize a new era, a new world is rising where America is not the sole superpower of the world, the unipolar institution that gets to define the rules for all other nations. They don't understand that. They think Russia is behaving in a rogue way within that old paradigm, not recognizing they're actually acting, as John Mearsheimer has explained time and time again, among others, like George Kagan of Harvard. They're acting perfectly rationally within a multipolar world order because you defend your hegemon against any peer power competitors, which is exactly what Putin is doing. So, yeah, we're in trouble. I think saner heads will prevail. I think the military recognizes we're in a post unipolar world, increasingly multipolar world. I mean, just that military exercise that China did, their Navy surrounding Taiwan. I mean, that was nuts. You understand one Chinese naval shipbuilding yard, one produces more ships than all of the United States shipyards combined. Okay, they're gonna have a Navy the likes of which we have never even imagined was conceivable or possible. So a new world is dawning, and we have to learn how to navigate, no pun intended, that world. And Biden clearly doesn't. He has no idea. David, can you recall for us how Bukele came to power and overcame the deep state? Yeah, David, I just did a quick video on that. It is a little, it's different in El Salvador because the president has a lot more power than our presidency has. Remember, Trump couldn't even build the wall because of effing congressional Republicans. They wouldn't appropriate the money under Paul Ryan. Couldn't even build a freaking wall. Bukele doesn't fall in. Bukele has no obstacles like that. Basically, what Bukele did is he militarized the police force, built a massive. Well, he came to power by running as an outsider in a new called New Ideas Party, Nueva Ideas Party. He was a young idealist. He was mayor of San Salvador. I mean, it was a tough election, but people were tired of the center right, center left establishment swamp in El Salvador that was basically making peace with the gangs. And he said, no, that's it. Put me in charge. Very similar to what Trump is saying. Put me in charge and I'll destroy the violent criminals. I will destroy. I'll build a massive prison. I will militarize our police force. And because if you recall, the amount of street gang members that they had, particularly MS-13, was over 60,000. It was bigger than the whole of their national police force. And he said, well, bring me in and we're going to change that. He built a super prison over the course of a year and a half, and then unleashed the beast. And basically arrested, I think, around upwards of 64,000. There's different figures, 64,000 gang members. And back in the day, if you were arrested as a gang member and even a gang leader, you only got, at most, you got a couple of months in prison, if that. And keep in mind, all of the prisons were ruled by the gangs. This new super prison that they built is ruled, obviously, by this militarized police force. And they got automatic 40-year sentences if you were caught and convicted as a gang member. 40 years. You're going to spend pretty much the rest of your life in this facility, this massive facility. Right now, it's housing 40,000 people, and then they've renovated and taken over the other prisons. So he basically restored order in a matter of just months by sending in the equivalent of the National Guard and arresting all the riffraff throughout El Salvador, and absolute no toleration. Now, and the second thing is the media hated him. The residue of left-wing liberals hated him. He was called an authoritarian dictator by our media. And what he told us at the latest CPAC in DC is he said, don't listen to them. Don't listen. Very much like Javier Milei in Argentina. Don't give them an inch. Don't give them an inch. Don't side with the establishment. Bring in whole new blood who are going to come in and establish a new order. And that's what he did. Now, again, Salvadoran presidency has much more power than ours, but that seems what he did. He did it very quickly. Now he's investigating his own cabinet. I don't know if you saw that via his attorney general. He wants to make sure every single one of them is clean and is not corrupt. So he's having them audited through an investigation, which would be magnificent if you think about it in our context. And then he had the re-election. When was that? February, where he won by 85% of the vote. People love him. Absolutely love him, as they should. He's amazing. One of the best presidents on the planet today. And he brought in crypto as a national currency as well. I mean, he's very future thinking and very conservative Catholic. He's gotten rid of the whole LGBT world. He sees the future as archaeofuturist, as civilizational. You're going to combine tradition and technology, and that's the way forward for the future. Jennifer, what Ohio congressman or congresswoman should I call? And what should I ask them to do to keep Biden off the ballot in Ohio? I've heard Governor DeWitt, isn't it? Is actually fighting to keep him off. Oh, really? I thought he was fighting to bring him on. Should I call Vance? Thanks for your tenacity and support, and thank you for being here for all of us. Thank you, Jennifer. Yeah, JD would be the one because your other Sherrod is a Democrat, so he's your other senator, and I think you're going to get rid of him. By the way, he's one of the weakest ones that will probably lose re-election. So definitely contact JD Vance's office and voice your concern about what's happening, and because he definitely he's one of us. Melissa, do you feel he'll be sentenced to jail time? Is that truly an option that could happen, or is it more just hyperbole? It's just hyperbole at this point. I wouldn't pay any attention to it. Again, a bail pending appeal prevents any punishment until the appeal is resolved, and that's not until well after November. And then, of course, Trump could just pardon himself once he wins. So I don't think you have to worry about him going to jail. Franz, if lawfare is a tactic in an information warfare campaign, is it fair to say that indictments and convictions are nothing more than false flag events? Yeah, they can be. Yeah, definitely. They can be. I mean, right. Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. Indictments and convictions are false flag events, staged events to galvanize and garner our attention. So if that's the case, then are you concerned? Maybe you could follow up with a comment, Franz. Are you concerned that all of this is actually trying to take our eye off the ball? That would be interesting because it's certainly working. That's all we cared about last night. It's certainly working. Let me know what you think. That would be interesting. And would that be what's going on in Ukraine right now, with permission now to use NATO weapons inside Russia, which is, I mean, if ever you wanted a green light for Putin to finish this with Ukraine not existing afterward, there it is. Rock Dog, Dr. Steve, do you think after yesterday when Trump is back in office, people would cheer or jeer if we were to arrest the Bidens, his entire regime, the Pelosi's, Schumer's, Bragg's, Letitia James, and charge them for treason? Great question. Rock Dog, I'd be honest with you. I in many ways, I don't even think it matters. I think that's just what he needs to do, to be honest with you, or whatever he's going to charge him with. But, I mean, one thing to do one thing to do, Robert Barnes, the lawyer, was talking about this. The Trump stack DOJ, Civil Rights Division in particular, that's where Barnes thinks it would be the most fruitful. The Civil Rights Division has to turn around and prosecute every single one of these rogue agents, rogue prosecutors, rogue judges, rogue politicians for violating Trump's rights and our civil rights as well. So he's thinking of the Civil Rights Division, the DOJ, just going full animal on all these guys. Would it be involve Pelosi, Schumer? Certainly Bragg and Letitia James, absolutely. But Pelosi and Schumer, well, again, I would love to see, frankly, the state red AGs do that, just like what they did with this, Manhattan DA. I want to see some red state DAs come out and show their DAs and AGs show their bona fides and make this a full court press of red state America rising up against our dying, dilapidated blue states that everybody is leaving. Nobody wants to have anything to do with blue America anymore. Rock Dog, Dr. C, do you think that it would be wise for Trump when he's back in office to release everything about the 2020 election, show that it was a coup d'etat, and get the people behind removing all the judges and reviewing all the anti-constitutional regulation of laws that were passed under his illegal regime? Yes, as long as he does it at the exact same time, he releases all the information on the Kennedys. That's huge too, because it's long past due via the Warren report, if I recall, that all the information regarding Kennedy's assassination should be released, and they refused to do it. Even Trump refused to do it. I think it was because of the pressure of Mike Pompeo, who's a deep state snake, and he needs to stay as far away from Trump as possible. So if he does that with the background of showing that what the CIA did in the original coup in 1963. That's what Ron Paul calls it. The CIA's 63 coup that we're still living in the shadow of, because we're run by intelligence agencies right now. It's basically what Tom Benz was talking with Tucker about. Ever since Brexit and 2016 Trump election against Hillary, our three-letter agencies are now deliberately running our nation. So absolutely, I think you're right. I think he needs to release everything on 2020. I think he needs to release everything on the original coup in 1963, and then clean it up. Go full animal. Again, like Javier Milei, don't give him an inch. Molly was able to donate on my email to President Trump yesterday. I did too. I hope everybody is joining in on it. Should be by the end of it all. If we go the full 24 hours, it should be over 50 million easily. So yes, I donated to Molly. Excellent. Was able to donate on my email to President Trump yesterday before the crash persist. We all need to step up and support in all ways to end this travesty. Pray as never before. Thank you, Dr. Steve, for your insight and faith. Thank you, Molly. Amen. And we should all make sure you are praying daily for President Trump, for his family, through all this, for our nation, for patriots all throughout our country, throughout the world. Pray for this new civilizationalist world order to rise peacefully, or as peacefully as possible. And just pray for an end to this old liberal order that needs to just go. So thanks, Molly. Amen. Rock Dog, Dr. Steve, based on history, is there any question in anybody's mind that the Democratic Party of the United States has become the 21st century Nazi party of Germany in the 1930s? Well, again, what we are seeing, I think more and more people are recognizing. That's why I wanted to begin with all the liberals that have been coming out, whether it's Piers Morgan or Michael Rappaport, that Silicon Valley millionaire, all these former liberals coming out and say, that's it. This is it. I'm done. I cannot support this party anymore. I just simply can't. And it's been happening more and more and more. They're leaving the party, recognizing that the liberal party has become the most illiberal party imaginable. Melissa, what's happening with the Representative Congressman's new ruling that requires all lawmakers to divulge if they are dual citizens? No idea, Melissa. No idea. I don't know. They do have a way of covering things up effectively, don't they? I don't know. I'd have to look into that. Rock Dog does see what with what happened yesterday. Do you think that there's any way that the Democrat plantation could even justify or try to steal this election? Yeah, they're already trying. I mean, that was what happened yesterday. I don't think they're going to be able to do it through ballots. I don't. The more I'm looking at the way 2024 is laying out in Arizona and Wisconsin and Georgia, I don't think they can do it. And that's it. If they don't get Arizona, Georgia, and Wisconsin, it's over. Provided Trump gets all the other states that he got in 2020, which looks like he'll no problem doing. So I don't think they're gonna be able to steal it through ballots. So I don't know. They'll try to find another way. They can't let Trump win. That's just the bottom line. They cannot let Trump win. The question is whether or not we're going to allow them to not let him win. Right. Franz, if the verdict is an indicator of internal fragmentation, would the pending red tsunami coming in November be the external counterpart? Yeah, that's a nice way of putting it. I like that. So you've got all this fragmentation. In the midst of the fragmentation, we look for order. That's inevitable. You look for order. In the midst of the lawlessness, you end up looking for order. So after the French Revolution, you get Napoleon. Okay, right? We're always looking for order. It's I think it's called, the technical term is actually evolutionary mismatch. I'm not a Darwinian or anything, but the notion is that when disadvantageous conditions swing way beyond where the majority are in all of this fragmentation, eventually a majority forms that swings it back into alignment. So yes, I think what we're seeing is chaos. I think what we're seeing is weaponized legalism, an affront to our democratic republic in the eyes of more and more people, ironically, not coming from Trump, but coming from the Democrats in the name of protecting our democracy. And people aren't buying it. So I think there's going to be what at least we see with this seem to be seeing with this coalition of rural whites and urban non-whites they are meeting in a common sense. We want a restoration of order. We are tired of this disorder and this fragmentation, and we want to come together as one. And that one will hopefully be the civic nationalism that situates us in this rising civilizational populism that's happening all over the world. Dr. Steve last night explained in detail on our Telegram channel about a judge here in Mississippi years ago who polled a jury in a civil suit after a verdict he didn't approve of. It exposed a minority young woman who was the same race as the defendant. Could fear of exposure have been a factor in this unanimous decision? The jury, I don't know, Joan. That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know anything about the jury. But whatever the reasons were, they have, they've destroyed what's left for many people. They have destroyed what's left of any legitimacy in our legal system. And if you want to see what can happen when the vast majority of a population no longer considers their public institutions legitimate, just take a look at the current state of the Berlin Wall. I mean, that was the most powerful empire the world had ever seen, and it crumbled literally overnight. I mean, the moment the vast majority don't want anymore, the regime crumbles. There's just no way around it. And then you rebuild, and that's where it looks like where we are right now. It's a good question, Joan. We'll have to see. Marcode, if Democrats and their Diablo counterparts, love it, succeed in sending Trump to Rikers, how much of the prison would need to be cleared out for him and his constitutional secret services entourage? A wing, the floor is on, and where would all those hardened criminals and all those cells go? If Bragg had his way, they'll go back to the streets. Marco, that's so true. I don't know. I don't think you have to. I don't think you have to worry about that. I honestly don't. At this point, when all said and done, bail pending appeal prevents any punishment until the appeal is resolved. That appeal process can go on for the next year or two. Trump's not going to prison anytime soon, or at all. Melissa, question: how do we stop the draft of our young people who didn't get them with the shot? Who do they believe they will recruit? Regarding also allowing illegals to join. Yeah, no, it's the last thing. I mean, Rome taught us that. You don't get foreign fighters to be your army lest they take you over. That's what Alaric did in the so-called Varvars, the barbarians who were on the frontiers, who were basically mercenaries who didn't get paid, got really upset, and then stormed into Rome in 410. You stop the draft by voting in MAGA first, America first politicians. You do. I mean, I don't think you have to worry about it, to be honest with you. It would be so politically absurd. But again, we're in post-normal times, so I wouldn't put it past them. But you got to make sure not a single Republican even comes close to considering a draft at this point. We're not fighting their forever wars. Lynn, Trump should set an online campaign with a cell phone app. Trump supporters could donate funds to an NGO account, would distribute free of charge cell phones, so those who do not or cannot access the internet on a personal computer would be able to do that. It would benefit the elderly and often those who do not use a PC. That's brilliant, Lynn. I would love to. I mean, send that idea into Truth Social or to Trump's account or probably the RNC, Laura Trump, or where did I donate last night? What was that? Red State? Can't remember. Red America or I would let them know that. That sounds like a great idea, Lynn. Debbie, global liberalism may be dead, but in the United States, isn't there an underlying connection based on the U.S. Constitution, our founding fathers? So I think there's a distinction between liberalism as a servant and liberalism as a master. I think for our founding fathers, they saw liberalism as a servant. So what is liberalism? Fundamentally, liberalism is the restraint of executive power in order to maximize individual freedom. That's what makes us all liberals in the classical sense. We want to minimize executive power, government power, so as to maximize our human freedom, individual freedom. Where things get problematic is when the individual becomes an idol. If all we care about is individual freedom and define freedom solely negatively, as in freedom from restraint, then what ends up happening is all of the intermediary institutions that are there for our social and cultural flourishing, church, community, family, and so forth, they all get destroyed because they put limitations on our human freedom. But they put limitations on our human freedom not because of negative freedom, freedom from restraint, but because of positive freedom, freedom for. Our freedom is there in order for us to be what we were truly meant to be, to realize our full human potential. And then that requires moral institutions like the family and the church and the community to awaken that freedom for. So if we're liberals that still recognize the importance of faith, family, and freedom in realizing our true liberty, then we're fine. We're fine. But what happened in the 20th century, some would argue in the 19th century, some would take it all the way back to the 18th century and the Enlightenment. But what happened is that at some point, liberalism became an idol and a negative liberalism, that you will not have any moral restraint over me apart from that which I choose for myself. And that has destroyed our country. That destroyed the church. It destroyed the family. It destroyed community. Which then required big government to come in to take over for those intermediary institutions. And so liberalism ends up, this radicalized idolatrous liberalism ends up becoming, ironically, the most illiberal, tyrannical system imaginable. So now it's illegal, literally illegal, unconstitutional to put a cross on any public space. But boy, you could sure put a rainbow flag. So that's and by the way, you can burn the American flag all you want. Try burning the rainbow flag. See what happens. So that's how liberalism as an idol transformed into totalitarianism. So great question, Debbie. Very good question. Rock Dog, the Rubicon has not only been crossed, the rule of law, it's been obliterated. The left has crossed the line that no one ever thought anyone would. So my question is retribution. What should it look like confiscating all of their property under RICO statutes and charges of treason? Protest. What do you think, Dr. Steve? Oh, my. Good question. I don't know the particulars. So you're taking this, Rock Dog, to the next level. Like, all right, what are we going to actually do strategically? How is it going to work out? It's a good question. I don't know. There's going to be retribution. That's for when Megyn Kelly is coming, when John Yoo of Berkeley is coming out and saying there needs to be retribution, there will be retribution. What it will look like, I have no idea. I'm with you, man. I mean, I'm just like, it's time to just end this thing. You know, I mean, these guys, I like Javier Milei. You can't give him an inch. You give him an inch, they'll take a mile. You can't give socialist leftists an inch. You got to get rid of them. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm not advocating violence, nothing like that. But I do think you have to use the power structures at your disposal to do exactly what those power structures do during emergency times. That's what I think you need to do. Gerald, when is that proposed response from Biden regarding the jury decision coming? I was interested in that as well. I haven't seen it. I don't know. I mean, Trump gave his at 11 today. He seemed totally unfazed, ready to rock and roll. I don't know what Biden is going to mumble for us. Rock Dog, Dr. Steve, there's no doubt in my mind that this Nazi judge scheduled the sentencing at the time of the RNC convention specifically to put Trump in jail. What do you think? I don't know. That would be very hard. Generally speaking, what I've done in terms of the reading is you only put someone in jail during an appellate process while it's being appealed. You put no bail if they're a flight risk or if they're a risk of physical harm to another person. I obviously don't see Trump as being either. I mean, that's what made the Fulton County. I don't know. You're right. I'm just thinking to myself, that's what made the Fulton County mugshot so stupid. You know, mugshots are taken so that law enforcement will recognize you if you flee. I mean, obviously, everyone recognizes Trump. There's no need for mugshots. They just did that to try to humiliate him. Again, the backlash against it has just been huge. So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. But I don't put anything past them. But I think it's going to be very, very hard to put Trump in jail. Ulf Peterschut, do you know how non-Americans can donate to the Trump campaign? That's a good question. I don't know that. I'm assuming anybody can if you just go to the website. Again, what is the website that I went to? I'm totally forgetting now. I have to go and look at my. Hey, Micah, can you give us the website that you go to for donating to the Trump campaign? Can you look that up real quick? I'm assuming you just go to the website, and I think you could just do a donation. I think anyone can. They didn't ask for my citizen status or anything like that. Just a credit card. That's all they needed. So, but that's awesome, Ulf Peter. That would be it'd be wonderful for you to help. Thank you. That we're all one. We're all patriots here. Charkin, do you still think this will work in Trump's favor and he'll stay out of jail as he appeals? Do you think the Supreme Court will have to step? Well, the Supreme Court may have to step in. We'll see how the appellate process goes in New York. But yeah, I mean, obviously, Charkin, my whole argument here is I think this radically favors Trump, and I gave the reasons why. Rock Dog, Dr. Steve, there is no doubt in my mind that this Nazi judge scheduled set. Oh, okay, we saw that. Franz, is now time to revisit that trucker boycott of New York City. Now, I saw that Very quickly, I listened to just the beginning of Styx Hexenhammer's analysis, which is always excellent, and I think that's exactly what he put forward. It's time for these truckers to boycott New York, definitely. Maybe besiege New York would be so much fun. Absolutely. Dr. Steve, yesterday, a lot of my veteran brethren, God bless you guys, thank you for your service, posted on Truth Social and Expatriates Assemble. I agree. I think now we need to start boycotts and anything else to force these people out of office soon. How would you suggest, in the way of Gandhi or MLK, we go about it? Oh, hold on. All right. So, just Win Red. That's it. I couldn't remember. So if you go to winred.com, winred.com, you can donate to Trump there. That'll work. I think right now we need to start boycotts and anything else to force these people out of office. And Gandhi and MLK did that. That's exactly what they did. And Gandhi was a big fan, as was MLK, of a parallel economy as well. Create your own economy, and then that creates the kind of independence you need for leverage against these people. I mean, boycotting New York, I could see that. I mean, that's the obvious one. How any trucker can drive into New York from this point forward who's a Trump fan is beyond me. Boycott New York. That's what I would go. I mean, I tend to minor on the actual specifics of strategy and just I think more in terms of the architecture of it. So I think you guys could come up with some amazing things. Doctor, is there any doubt left that liberalism is a flesh-eating amoeba that rots the human brain, even RFKs? No doubt whatsoever, Rock Dog. Jennifer, Matthew 9:17, neither do men pour new wine into old wineskins, else the wineskins would burst. That's really neat, right? The old covenant, the new covenant, the old era, the new era. And we're kind of in between. And let's not feed that old era. That's right. That's why, again, we hate rhinos, is rhinos perpetuate the old era and keep us from entering into a new one of nationalism, populism, and traditionalism. Beautiful, Jennifer. Wendy, can you imagine Trump sitting in jail and still holding rallies? Oh, that would be awesome. We'd all go visit. That would be the best. That would be the greatest jail moment ever. Joan, can we please stop referring to the Democrats as the Democrat? I do it all the time. I hear you in my back of my head, Joan. I hear you. I do it all the time. They are anything but. I will hold me honest to that, Joan. Hold me on. I always do the Democratic. I guess it's just when I'm not thinking about it. I just because I do it as an adjective, like a Republican Party and Democratic. But yeah, no, I mean they're right. They're the undemocratic party. Maybe that's that way I can get away with it, right, Joan? The undemocratic party. Just Jules, Dr. Z, is it time to fly the Batman sign over America? I think it's the T. It's the big T, the big Trump. It is. I mean, again, it's the people. If this only goes as long, communism only lasts as long as the people allowed it. As long as the people rise up, this thing is going to come to an end. There's nothing they can do when the people were opposed to them. Nothing. Couple more here. Rock Dog, how can any of these bring dead sewer rats in D.C. ever try to talk to the rest of the world? The United States uphold the rule of law and will fight for democracy around the world. Do you think it can be fixed with 4 years of trial? I do. I mean, look at what Bukele has done in El Salvador. Look at what Milei has done in just a few months in Argentina. It's stunning. Putin took on his deep state. Viktor Orban took on his deep state. Yeah, no, you could do it. It's just hard. It's harder because our deep state's the strongest of them all. But no, I mean, the way they talk about being defenders of democracy, they just redefine democracy differently. Democracy is that which benefits the permanent political class. That's simple. Do you think the Supreme Court might push up the release of the ruling on president? I don't know if they'll push up the release of the ruling, but I think they will expand it. That's a very interesting point, Rock Dog. Do you think the Supreme Court might push up the release of the ruling on presidential immunity and even throw in dumping out this conviction soon? Because he was convicted for something that he got after he became president. That's when they put the ledger down. So that I think this would get thrown out just on the immunity charge. Yeah. I just think this is going to force the Supreme Court to widen what a former president can be indicted for outside of impeachment. To me, the bottom line is, if you haven't been impeached for it and you haven't been convicted in the Senate, you cannot be tried for it, period. End of discussion. That we have a constitutionally mandated process by which to hold a president legally accountable for his actions, and it is impeachment and conviction in the Senate. So it's that simple. It's not some fat DA in Manhattan thinking he can just invent law to take out Trump. So, all right. Our founding fathers warned us about domestic enemies destroying the republic from within. Based on the last 6+ years, I'd have to say the Democratic Party and globalist rhinos have become the enemy within. Yes. Our enemy is from within, and it is definitely Democrat Party and globalist rhinos. Absolutely no question about it. Chark and Dr. Turley, I support Israel because I view them as our responsibility and because they represent our interests in the Middle East. Am I wrong? Do you have to be anti-war across the board? No. I mean, no. You're gonna work out things the way. No. You're gonna. I mean, you could be anti-war generally and still support support a cause here or there, a military cause and the like. Now, I think what you're expressing is the majority view of most Republicans. I don't know if they represent our interests in the Middle East per se. I mean, John Mearsheimer has a very strong argument that actually Israel, and I'm just giving the argument here. Mearsheimer's no friend to liberalism. But he thinks Israel often it goes against American interests in the Middle East when you look at the larger geopolitical picture. But no, what you just said there is fully in line with the vast majority Republican sentiment. Yeah, they do support Israel in the midst of this. They're very, very nervous about Islamic movements, and obviously with 9/11, with the Iranian hostage situation back in the 79 that humiliated America around the world. So yeah, there's definite concern there. Old Polar was 2024 May 30th, the birth of a banana republic or a Declaration of Independence. It's almost something like Benjamin Franklin would say. It depends which one you keep, right? This is a republic if you can keep it. I did see somebody tweet, I think it's Oren McIntyre, said it was a republic and we couldn't keep it. It really does come down to the question of who rises up. And we just need to remember there's far more of us than there is of them. And if we all rise up, if we are that great sleeping giant rises with a terrible resolve, they're cooked. I think it can be a new day of our Declaration of Independence. One more. Charkin, is post-normal times a scholarly way to say clown world? It can be, Charkin. It can be. But it does have those 3 C's that we talk about that help us to understand what's going on: complexity, chaos, and contradiction. And that's the key. Again, this is what makes so much of what passes as, commentary today so ludicrous, so ridiculous. It's like, oh, these MAGA types, they're just fascists, they're just they're just racist from the 1960s. No, you can't. What was normal back then does not apply to today. Today is a sui generis period of time, an interregnum, as one of you guys said, between a no longer and a not yet. And so then we focus on 3 C's: complexity, chaos, and contradiction, to try to understand these times so as to be able to better navigate our way and more fruitfully navigate our way into a hopefully much better future. So there you go. The clown show, maybe, is that the 4C? Complexity, chaos, contradiction, and clowns. There you go. I love you guys. It's an honor to be with you in this fight. You mean everything to me. Keep it all in prayer, and we're going to punch through this. I love you. God bless.